Hello everyone, it's Deb Floros for the Ava Motherwell collection. I'm sharing with you today something very fun. Brooches are in and safety pin brooches are in. And this is the Semiquincentennial safety pin kit that you can get at avamotherwell.com. You'll get all of the pieces except the wire and the head pin that I'm going to use for this fun and fabulous embellishment. You can put this on your bag, you can put this on your jean jacket, on your sweater. This is such a cute brooch. So very, very much fun. So this is what we're going to make today, and all you're going to need is this kit and a few tools, wire, and a head pin. So I'm going to open up this kit and we're going to take a look at all of the wonderful pieces and parts. You're going to get some German resin, some vintage glass, some Italian glitter, a vintage brass bead, and some table cut beads, which are super cool. So red, white, and blue, we've got that. So these rounds are so pretty. They're a nice big bead. And the blue is such a vibrant color with those white stars. Here's that pin finding. Oh my gosh, this gold tone pin is so nice, such good quality. And it's got 3 loops at the bottom and also some void space that we're going to use. And this is that amazing vintage brass bead. It looks very vintage. It's fluted. It's super cool. There's also these amazing stars in 2 colors. I love that this one is gold tone. They're all drilled at the top of one of the points. There's also these seed beads, which I used for accents all throughout the piece. The table cut glass is very cool, and there's our 250 to celebrate the quincentennial birthday of America. And this is just a really cool little kit. So we're going to need cutters. We're going to need some round nose pliers, and you're going to need a couple pairs of chain nose. And if you have a very thin chain nose, that will be helpful for all of the wire wrapping we're going to be doing, especially in some small places. You're going to need some wire, quite a bit of it actually. 22 gauge wire is what I used in this gold color. I love artistic wire, so this works perfectly. And 1 single head pin, and I used a ball end head pin, but you could use a flat end. Now we're going to start with our piece here, and you'll note that it has an actual pin and then 3 loops. There's lots of other spaces you can add things as well, so certainly you can design this your own way, but I'm going to show you how I made mine. So I started with kind of putting some pieces on my mat, taking a look at how they might come together, how they would not bump into each other or crowd each other. And I think it's best to kind of play around to see how things will fit together. Now we're going to add that 250 and a star in between those loops and next to the loops. So we're going to get started with making our strands or our wire wrapped chain pieces first, and then we'll add the other items in between those loops. I like to start with the center loop, and I think for most of the wrapping you're going to do, you'll really only need about 2 or 3 inches. I always way overcut my wire, but I start with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to do a loop, a wire wrap loop. So I bend it over the front of my pliers, back over the back. I twist, and then I'm just going to do 2 wraps around that wire there. So I've got a nice round loop. I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I'm going to add my first set of beads. So I'm going to use those seed beads. That metal bead has a very large hole. So in order to protect those beads, the seed beads from going in, I've got those beautiful Italian glitter pieces. And so one of those red ones will go on one side of the brass bead and one will go on the other, and then a seed bead. And then I'm going to do another wire wrap loop, but I'm not going to wrap it just yet. I'm just going to get that loop ready to go. And then I'm going to pick up my pin piece after opening up that loop just a little bit so I can slip that onto my finding. And you do need to make sure that the loop is big enough to go over that loop on your component. It's a little chunky. So I'm going to use my precision chain nose, and this is what I mean. You're getting into a very small space, and you're going to hold on to that loop and do a couple of wraps to match the couple of wraps that are at the other end of that bead. I'm going to trim off my excess, and now I've got my first bead on. And I always suggest, as you're working through this piece, straighten out your loops. Make sure you tuck in your wire, and if you do that and keep up with it, you won't have to do much homework at the end of the project. So now I'm going to do my second bead, and I'm going to do those couple of wraps first, just like the first bead, getting that nice round loop, trimming off my excess wire. Then I'm going to take one of those beautiful seed beads and one of those big white beads, such a stark white, so beautiful. And then I'm going to do my loop and get it ready. And then I'm going to attach it to the loop on the bead that I've already wrapped and that is attached to that pin component. So I'm going to pick up my chain nose again, hold on to that loop, and do a couple of wraps on top of that seed bead there. So try to be consistent, but if you're not always doing the same amount of wraps, that's okay. And if you like a messy wrap, go for it. So next I'm going to do a third bead, and I've been very thoughtful, so I did kind of lay this out first. So now I need a little more space again, so that I'll have the opportunity to add some larger beads on the loops next to this strand of beads. So I'm using 2 seed beads again, pretty much on with all of the beads, I'm using a seed bead at either end. So you can use a jump ring here. So I've got a jump ring. You could attach everything with jump rings. So you could do your wire wrapping and not worry about connecting, but then take jump rings and add all of the pieces together. If you're more comfortable with that, you're not as comfortable connecting the pieces directly, you could certainly do all of your wire wrap loops, do all of your wire wrapping, and then grab some jump rings and start making your connections. There's my first strand of beads, and I absolutely love the look of that. Now you could go shorter, you could go longer. This is a preference, but if you want to make the one I'm making, this is my first strand, and I've got red, white, and blue represented as well as gold. Now I'm going to wrap one of these stars to put at the very end, and you see it's drilled through the top, and I want my star to face forward. So I'm going to put my wire in, and I'm going to bend it and crisscross it. And I want there to be a little bit of movement here. Doesn't have to be a really big crisscross, but there has to be a little bit of room there for that bead to move. Now I'm going to do a little bend of the smaller end of wire and then pull the other wire straight up, and then do some wraps around the base of the longer piece of wire. I go down to where the wire crisscrossed, and I do about 4 wraps. You can go super, pristine, or you can do messy, whatever you prefer. I'm going to trim off that excess, then I'm going to create another wire wrap loop. And because I want this to face forward, I'll need to make sure that my loop is like front to back. So holding on to that wire, I'm doing the bending over and the bending back with that star facing me. Then I'm going to open up that loop that I created, grab a hold of it with my chain nose, and then do some wraps all the way down the wraps that are already there. So it's making a really chunky wrap there at the bottom. And again, this could be really pristine. This could be really messy. You do you, and you do what's comfortable for your wraps. Now I've got one extra bead. What I found was I did my whole design and I had one more of those blue beads. So I thought, well, I'm going to use it. I'm going to add it. So I put that on a head pin, and I did put the seed beads on either side of it. And I'm going to do just what I did with the wire. I'm going to create a wire wrap loop, but I'm going to start with just creating that loop and opening it up. And I'm going to go to the loop at the bottom of the red bead where I attached the star. You should have plenty of room. And you can drop that on that loop and just wire wrap that bead on. So that's going to add some extra movement at the center of your pin. So I love how that looks, all the colors, all the movement, everything fun. And I'm just going to go back through, straighten out my loops, tuck in my wire, just grabbing those chain nose, getting everything cleaned up. So now I'm going to add beads to the other sides. Now, here's where you need to be a little bit thoughtful of your design because you don't want your beads to overcrowd each other. So you might want to add some smaller beads next to larger beads so that you don't have everything bumping into each other. You've got a nice mix of large and small beads here, so there's lots of options for you to design. I started with one of those small German resin beads on one side, then added one of the larger beads, and you see it's not really crowding. I'm giving myself enough space, so now I can just do some fun things going down the side. Now, I did use some of those glitter spacers around one of the smaller beads too. Then I added one of the stars, the gold stars, at the end of that side. So this is the left side of the pin from my perspective. And I did a little bit of a shorter strand on this side, but you could shorten up your middle and try and even out all of your strands. This is, this is your pin. You do you. You decide how you want to organize all of these beads. But I really like the look of kind of mixing it up, getting all of the different blues and reds and whites and golds all in each strand, but making each one a little bit different. So now we need to do one more. And I did start with one of those table cut beads. Then I could add another one of the large beads. You see how they're staggered a little bit. They're not going to crowd each other. I also put some of those glitter spacers around that blue bead. I thought that looked pretty cool as well. And then another star at the end. So I'm going to save that white one for the top. And then I'm going to use the gold one on the other side. So the two golds match on either side there. I love how this looks. Super, super fun. So now we've got our 250 to contend with. And I'm just straightening things up a little bit before we start adding those. Now we're going to be putting our 250 sort of around those loops. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the star. We're going to crisscross the wire through that top drill, and these number beads it matters how you wrap them and attach them. So make sure that you've got them oriented in the right direction. The 0 isn't a problem, but the 2 and the 5 definitely have to be facing the right way. So you'll want to do your wrap, and then I put the 0 to the right of the right loop on the pin component, and I wrapped directly on. It's a little bit challenging because you've got a lot going on there, but just take your time, grab a hold of your loop with your chain nose. You see I've got all kinds of things going on there, but you're going to do some wrapping, and that 0 is attached. Now the 5 is drilled up kind of in the corner of the 5. So that one's going to hang a little bit differently in the center, but I'm going to put that one, wire wrap that in between the far right loop and the middle loop. And again, this is tricky because you've got a lot going on. Everything's attached. I think it would be harder to attach these first, but you could certainly attach your numbers first if you wanted to before you did anything with your loops. Personal preference, your decision, but I'm also kind of straightening everything up after I get that one attached. And there that is. And those are going to move around. They're going to create some interest up there. Then that 2 is going to go between the middle and the left loop. And then I'm going to add the star on the other side of that loop. I love this pin. This is a great way to celebrate our country's birthday, 250th birthday to be exact. And I love the movement that this creates. So if you don't like this configuration, this kit allows you to do whatever you want. You get the beads, you get the pin, you can make this your own. I love this to attach to a jean jacket, to a purse. You could attach it to your jeans. You could do all kinds of fun things. Go and pick up the Semiquincentennial Safety Pin Kit at avamotherwell.com. Thank you so much for watching.